The most recent patch 1.2 has just added in 5 new bosses to Diablo 4. Whether you're getting started in Season 2 or playing on just the Eternal Realm, you can take advantage of all these new bosses to now target farm specific uniques within the game. In this video today, I'm going to go through how you would summon each one of those bosses respectively. I'll show off what the loot is for each boss, and I'll give an example specifically with Grigoire, the Galavonic Saint, on how to summon that boss. But if this is your first time on my channel, the way I like to do things here is by upfronting the knowledge within my videos so that you can decide to stick around if you so wish. So with that being said, what I'm going to do here is just cover how you summon all the bosses, the loot. You can just go ahead and jump forward to that portion of the video. Everything's denoted in chapters in the timeline below. But the Echo of Varshan, you're going to summon with malignant body parts that you get from the Whisper caches. So it's a real easy one that you're going to be getting the parts for just standard by playing through the game. Grigoire, the Galavonic Saint, you're going to summon him with Living Steel. You'll get this from the Tortured Offerings within the Hell Tides. They are chests that require 300 souls to unlock. The Beast in Ice is pretty easy to be done here. Basically, you need to do level 30 or higher nightmare dungeons, and then you need to get Distilled Fear. And with that Distilled Fear, you can craft a Glacial Fissure Nightmare Sigil to then challenge the Beast in Ice. It's a kind of a multi-step process, but it's a really cool one to get a pretty... They kind of, as I'm explaining them, they get harder and harder, right? So the Beast in Ice, you have to be able to do Nightmare Dungeon 30 plus to even get to them, so it's a bit harder to unlock. Lord Zier is done with getting Exquisite Blood from doing Legion events and world bosses. So if you haven't completed the campaign, you can't do him yet. And then lastly, you have to summon Duriel, the King of Maggots. And to do him, you need to get basically an item that you receive whenever you do the Echo of Varshan and whenever you do Grigoire, the Galavonic Saint. Once you get enough of them, you will combine them to summon Duriel. And if that's all you wanted to know, that's all that we're going to be covering in this video. It's pretty much just how to summon them, where you do it, and all sorts of that fun jazz. But if that's all it is, go ahead and feel free to shut the video on down. But before you do, please don't forget to like, comment, and or subscribe. Each one of those things does help me out in an absolute huge way. Right now I have 89% unsubscribed viewer base on the channel, and that's a metric I'm trying to change here before the end of the year. As I said before earlier, you can jump forward to any part of this video that interests you the most using the chapters in both the timeline and the description. Also, before you head out, don't forget to check me out on Twitch, where I do stream Diablo 4 in a number of games. Let's get started here on all the new endgame bosses added to Diablo 4. So as far as the loot goes, let's talk about that first since I brought it up in the intro. We're going to start with Varshan, but you'll be able to see here, these are all of the uniques that drop from Varshan. And what's nice is that you can target farm these guys down pretty quickly, pretty easily. So if you're a druid and you're trying to get, I don't know, the Great Staff of the Crone, which is a pretty big desired one, Varshan's where you go. Necromancer here, Bloodless Scream's okay. Maybe Barbarian, you're trying to get, maybe none of these. Rogue, maybe trying to get Condemnation. Maybe you're trying to get the Frostburn Gauntlets or Mother's Embrace or anything from the Sorcerer portion. You just simply would hunt down Varshan. Now remember, Varshan is the one that is linked over to, what's it called? Doing the Whisper caches. So I think this is the one that you're going to have access. It's going to be accessible to you probably the most, since you're always getting those Whisper caches unlocked by just doing everything else that unlocks the other bosses. And it's why it has an item that is required to actually give you Duriel, to unlock Duriel, right? Which brings us to Grigoire. Now, Grigoire is the other boss that has an item that links you over to Duriel. And it's a pretty easy one because you just simply need to do Hell Tides, which you're probably doing anyway at any point in the game. Remember, 1.2 adds in item power 925. And if you've not seen an item power at 925 yet, I promise it's just going to blow your cock off. Like, it is just massively increased in power to kind of deal with the power sculpt they've kind of swapped around with that huge influx. So if you go to do a world boss right now on one of your internal characters, you'll probably guarantee get a 900 plus power level item. So with Grigoire though, You're going to see, you know, Gloves of the Illuminator here, Rage of Haragoth on a Barbarian, or Battle Trance, Ancient's Oath, the Butcher's Cleaver, Howl from Below if you're building a Corpse Explosion build, the Ward of Hakon for Rogue, which is a pretty good one for penetrating shot builds, Insatiable Fury for Druids, or the Hunter's Zenith, Penitent Greaves. That's all going to drop on Grigoire. Now remember, that is, you need 300 of the... I'm calling them souls, but my brain's all over the place. 300 of the Helltide shards, I'll call them. You go and pop open the chest, and you'll be able to get the living steel that you need. And we'll show that off. This is the guy that I show off in this video that you'll need to summon Grigoire. Now, into our next one is Beast in Ice. So this is where you're going to get Staff of Lam Essen, the 100,000 Steps again for Barbarian, but Ancient's Oath again, and Hellhammer. If you're trying to go with that build, that just got a recent buff and changed around to some of its skills, right? 1.2 changed around a lot of the uniques. They actually have the bonuses to skills, that the skills that they benefit or give an additional unique benefit to. Fields of Crimson here, the two-handed sword, Insatiable Fury for Druid, Hunter's Zenith for the Druid, Storm's Companion, Death Speakers. Here's where you get Ring of Mendelin. So if you're doing a minion build, you can go hunt down the Beast in Ice. Realistically, by the time you get to a Nightmare level Dungeon 30, which is probably around levels 70, 75, give or take, depending on what your build is, you might already have a Ring of Mendelin. But if you're going with a minion build, it's what's going to really turn that build on for you. But Wind Force and Eaglehorn are both on Rogue there for you, just to kind of show you some of the ones you're getting from Beast in Ice. Now, our next one is Lord Zir, and this is where you're going to get Overkill or Gore's Devastating Grips again for Barbarian, or Rage of Haragoth again for Barbarians. You can see there is an overlap for some of these. You can say, hey, you know what, I want to get Overkill, but I also need Rage of Haragoth. There, it's right over here for Lord Zir. Necromancer, get Blood Artisan's Curious, Greaves of the Empty Tomb, that's not a tome. Lidless Wall, finally. Mad Wolf's Glee, Vasili's Prayer, Fleshrender. Sorcerer can get the Iceheart Bray, the Raiment of Infinite, Eyes in the Dark for the Rogue, or Grasp of Shadow. If you're trying to do a Shadow Clone build, whatever it is, you can find it all right here. Ashira's Kunjar, which is a pretty good one here, especially with all the benefits to Vampiric Power and the weapon speed buff that this can give. It's a pretty awesome one there. And then our last one is Duriel. Now, Duriel gets plenty of good items here, right? The Godslayer Crown, the Flicker Step, Debalt's Will, X-Falls Corded Signet, Soulbrand, Banished Lord's Talisman, and you get a lot of the more unique or cool uniques, like Azure Wrath, which is probably my favorite weapon in the whole goddamn game, and the new uniques. So Tusk Helm of Joritz the Mighty, Blood Moon Breaches, I believe is the new one for Necromancer, Scoundrel's Leathers, which is really sick. It is so cool for Death Trap, Poison Trap, and I think it's Smoke Grenade is the other one, but it basically, you use this in conjunction with Inner Sight. Tempest Roar for Druid, the new Dolmen Stone. All this drops for sure on Duriel. You can get those drops outside of these bosses. I don't know if I've made that clear enough, but this is where how you can target farm down those uniques. And the best thing is you can get the Uber uniques from Duriel. So Doombringer, Grandfather, Melted Heart of Selig, and Duriel's Visage, Harlequin's Crest, Ring of Starless Skies, Varian, Spear of Lysander. So you have all of these uniques that you can now get from Duriel, and the Uber uniques that have previously been much harder to get, which had a better drop rate now here in 1.2. So moving into the game, let's show off some stuff here. Let me actually do this and move this out of the way. So if we go into our inventory, we can see, and this is on my Eternal character. I have not in any way maxed out the game yet. I've already got some items. So Living Steel, which we'll talk about more in a little bit. Forged in the Hall, the Penitent within Central Stride Steps to summon a powerful enemy. Requires 2 in World Tier 3 and 5 in World Tier 4. Later in the video, I'm going to say this wrong. I'm going to say 2 different values for 2 different world tiers. Just ignore that. I was recording it while I was streaming, and I can't replicate that for this point right now. So just ignore it for when I do say it. But Living Steel here is going to be used to summon Grigoire. And then Shard of Agony is what I get for defeating Grigoire. So it requires 2, merged in the Gaping Crevasse in Southern Kyrgyzstan, and the Mucus Slick Egg to summon a powerful enemy. Requires 2, acquired from the Hall of Penitent in World Tier 4, torment only by the one who performs the summoning. And then we also have a blackened femur. This is one of the ones that you get whenever you do the Assemble Beneath the Tree of Whispers within Malignant Burrow to summon a powerful enemy collected from the Whispers cache. So this is the one whenever you do a Whispers cache, you get one of these. And also you have Exquisite Blood, using the Ancient Seat within the Darkened Way and the Fractured Peaks to summon a powerful enemy. Requires 9. Collected from the World Bosses and Legion events. So World Bosses, Legion events get you Exquisite Blood. You get 9 of them, then you go summon the boss respective for this one. So the question remains, where do you find these bosses? Well, you're going to go ahead and look for these across the map. These are the special places where you go to summon the bosses, for the exception of Lord Zir, which is summoned over here in the Darkened Way. You'd go in here and you can summon him in this location. You probably remember this from the story. But take, for example, where did it go? Oh, the Glacial Fissure is where you're going to take that special Nightmare Sigil that you're going to get for the Beast of the Ice, or Beast of Ice, the Icy Beast. Grigoire, the Galavonic Saint, is right here at the Hall of the Penitent. And then down over here, right at the Tree of Whispers, we have Varshan in the Malignant Burrow. And then we also get the Gaping Crevasse is where we have Duriel. So if you're trying to find them on the map, this is where they are. There's 5 bosses, remember? So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the Darkened Way is the 5th. And that's where you summon them up. And the nice thing, again, is that you'll be able to just spot farm these guys. You won't have any limitations on being able to do it. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, I mean, world events, how often am I going to hit those? With 1.2, world bosses spawn every 4 hours, I believe. And also, you get the same exact material to summon that boss up by simply doing Legion events, which I believe are, I don't even remember the algorithm for it. It's like something like, oh, every 47 minutes or something weird like that. So there's plenty of opportunities to summon up all the other bosses in the meantime. So let's talk about now Grigoire here and the Hall of the Penitent, because to unlock him, we have to get Living Steel, not to be confused with the hit show in Living Color. So getting the Living Steel to summon Grigoire, you'll need to do this in Helltide, starting at World Tier 3, of course going into 4 and 5, and depending on where you want to summon him into the map, on which world tier, will depend on how many Living Steel you need. It's pretty much 1-to-1 for the world tier. I believe it's like 5 Living Steel for World Tier 5. And you get that from these tortured gifts of infernal steel up here. So let's go ahead and do this. There's going to be a guardian up here. We're going to have to deal with him and kill these zealots around him first. And this will summon up more stuff. And we're just going to deal with that. And then as soon as we touch his little bag of goodies over there, his little chest, my precious. So once you've killed him, you go ahead and pop open this tortured gift of living steel. It's 300 cinders. Keep that in mind. 300 cinders gives you some experience, and we get 3 living steel. Now that's enough to summon on a particular difficulty, but if you want to summon him on World Tier 5, you need to do this basically twice to get all of your living steel. And here to be an example of another one of those chests open up and giving us 3 steel, but also a 1 and a 1 steel. So you can definitely get 5 steel from one chest. It just depends on how they drop for you. And once we have all 5 of that steel, and again, if you can use 3 if you so wish, we're going to come over here to the Hall of the Penitent, and this is going to allow us to summon Grigoire, the Galavonic Saint. Now, he focuses on lightning damage, meaning that for every one of these bosses that you do, you're going to want to focus on their primary form of damage as a resistance. Remember how potions work? Now with this, we jump over here to our consumables. We can see that none of these are the ones I want to talk about. Just look at any one of these. Now your potions will increase your resistance by a set amount and the max amount as well. So if you craft yourself, say, a better lightning potion of a better elixir of cold resistance or lightning resistance, it's going to increase that lightning resistance by X% and that max amount, so that you can actually have a higher total resist, because your resistances are going to cap out at 70 with a max of 85. So if you get that extra 15% from a potion and you already have that extra 15% somewhere on your armor, you can actually facilitate that increased resistance bonus before you jump into any one of these bosses. So we've got our living steel. We're inside of the dungeon. Let's go ahead and go to I'm going to show you. I made some of the nicer potions here. So potent elixir of lightning resistance plus 25. Let's go ahead and just use that. So now I also put diamonds in my stuff over here. We have 43. This is, I don't have max. You should definitely have max, but I think that people coming into the season, coming into this patch on all their Eternals or seasonal characters, their resistances are going to be haywire if they're not building the character from the ground up. Let's go ahead and enter this in. Like I said before, it requires 2 in World Tier 3 and 5 in World Tier 4, found in the Hell Tides from Tortured's Gift of Living Steel. So my numbers were all off earlier, but here you go. We're going to go ahead and press summon. And this brings the bad boy online. So let's watch a fun fight. And there you go. Once you beat them, you can now spot farm your uniques, of course. We got our gloves of, whatever the hell, our howl from below in this case. And we also got that shard of agony. So right here, merge in a gaping crevasse in southern Kyrgyzstan with a mucus slick egg to summon a powerful enemy. Acquires 2 acquired from the Hall dependent in World Tier 4 tournament only by the one who performs the summoning. So you can see that you can get these guys all together, but it's a great way to kind of stack those uniques, right? Like I am a necromancer, so those are the uniques I got. And remember too, because I'm in World Tier 4, I'm only going to be getting ancestral loot or crafting mats. I mean, you can get a sacred legendary, but that is the Hall Penitent, and that is how you would summon one of the new bosses added in here with Season 2, or at least not even with Season 2 itself. This is, of course, apparent on everything. This is an Eternal character, so you can find this here on just the base Eternal realm. You don't actually need to play the season to do that. But really, that's everything. I mean, we just showed off one boss and how you approach it. And like I said before, like multiple times in this video, you can do it on seasonal or Eternal. And you'll be able to get those uniques you need, whatever you want. In fact, it's just a fun way to kind of do stuff differently in the end game. That's outside of Nightmare Dungeons, but also attached to all the things you're just going to be doing naturally anyway. You're doing Legion events, you're doing world bosses, you're doing Nightmare Dungeons. So these things kind of lend themselves, and Whisper Caches are all connected to all those anyway as well, right? And with the new seasonal event of doing the kind of harvest season field, whatever they're called, like basically the purple hell tide or whatever, where you go and kill vampires. That's all going to link to this too, because that gives you whisper events as well. I'm unsure if those can spawn in a hell tide. I've yet to see that happen yet. But again, all this is going to kind of link together to make for a little bit more of a fluid and fun end game. And I think that's the most important thing about these bosses is it gives us the capability to somewhat target farm in the same way you had, say, with Diablo 2, right? Like, you know what? I want to get Arachnid Mesh, then I'm going to go do hell difficulty on Duriel until it drops. Hey, you know what? I want to go get this item. I'm going to go do that until it drops. Or I'm going to go find, I'm going to go to Chaos Sanctuary. I'm going to go to the pit, whatever it is, to target farm with the proper M and I level, right? So it's not a 100% similar system, but at least gets us to that ability to target farm like we've had in previous Diablos and the such. So I'm very excited to play this out and try it out more throughout this season. If you have any other questions of how this works, go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. I think it's pretty straightforward once you understand how all these pieces socket together. I'm going to have another video coming out here about vampiric powers and a lot of that action with the seasons, but I wanted this one to kind of get out to you guys so you have a better idea of how to jump into these endgame bosses with the new season of Diablo 4. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.